So we're going to work on a practice today that I'm calling Hope for the Hopeless. And sometimes these themes that I come up with are things that I'm kind of dealing with myself. And I look to my yoga philosophies and yoga stories and all these things to help me get through challenging times. So there's a character in the yoga mythology, and he's called Hanuman. So I'm going to show you his picture, so you guys can take a look at him. He's kind of a little gruesome picture there. He's opening his heart. I don't know if you can see that, but he's a monkey and he's born with all these superpowers, but he's cursed because he's kind of a brat when he's little, and then he forgets how special he is. He forgets his superpowers, but he grows up to be a servant of the king. And in these stories, the characters often represent different aspects of the self or the divine. So they're always very spiritual in nature. And so the king is said to represent God or the divine. And the king's name is Rama. And so Hanuman is just a very humble servant. He'll do anything for his king, lay down at his feet, just give up his life. He's just really a devoted servant to the king. And so the king's always calling on Hanuman to do all these things for him, these tasks, because he knows Hanuman is up for it. Well, Hanuman doesn't remember that he has all these unique special powers. So whenever the king calls on him to do these, special, nearly impossible feats, Hanuman has to kind of dig in really deep. And what he does is he chants the name of the king over and over and over again. He goes, Rama, 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 until he feels like it's written in his heart. And that's what that picture is. He's pulling his heart open, and inside his heart is the picture of the king and the queen. And the queen is said to represent the aspect of the soul. And then the queen gets kidnapped by this evil demon. There's always the evil demon in these stories. And the evil demon named Ravana is said to represent our ego. So it's our ego that is said to kind of separate the soul from the divine. So Hanuman has to go rescue the queen, and he has to jump over lands and sea and try to get there. And he forgets how powerful he is, that he can actually do this leap. And that's where the name of the pose comes from, because Hanuman is named for the pose of the split. So one leg forward, one leg back, and he takes this giant leap across the ocean to rescue the queen. And in one of the other stories, the king asks him to find a rare herb to help heal his best friend. He can't find the herb, so he brings the whole mountain back with him. So he does all these impossible things, but all in the name of his devotion and his love for King Rama. So we're gonna focus, we'll do the hamstring work. We're not gonna do a full split because this is a gentle class, but I really wanna focus on the open heart part of it, because it's that open-heartedness of him kind of writing the name of his beloved God, his king, in his heart that really gives him hope. So we're going to start in our heart opener that we do with the 2 blocks. So I'm going to meet you on your mat, and we'll start with that, and we'll also, work on the hamstrings a little bit today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody unless you have a question. All right. Now, give me 1 second. I just want to make sure I'm spotlighted for you guys. Okay. So go ahead and grab your 2 blocks, and you can put them on any level that is appropriate for you. Actually, now I can't see you guys. Hold on 1 second. Okay, can you guys still see me big? Just nod yes. Okay, cool, thank you. All right. So we'll come down and put 1 block is going to go underneath the back of your heart. So we get that open-hearted sensation. And the other block goes under the back of your head. And your legs can be however you like them to be. They could be straight or flat or open into a bound angle if you want a little hip opener this morning. And we're going to just take a couple of minutes to settle in here. So I'm going to come up, but you guys can stay there. And then starting to focus in on your breathing. Feeling this lifted, open-hearted position this morning. And I'm going to ask everyone to think of a word or a concept, something that you can write in your heart today that might give you hope. So perhaps that's the name that you choose for God, goddess, whatever you might refer to. But maybe you want a concept like peace, or light, or love, or hope. So think about a word that would really resonate with you for your practice today. Something that really represents hope. That gives you hope, gives you strength. And we'll stay with that throughout our practice today. So really keeping that word close to our heart, keeping it inscribed in our hearts. As you breathe in, be noticing kind of a subtle opening into the heart space, into the chest. And as you exhale, feel kind of a sense of grounding, of releasing, dropping in. I'm going to share another little bit of the yoga philosophy before we come out of this pose. So there's a word in Sanskrit called Shraddha, and Shraddha means faith. But it has kind of some multi-layered meaning to it. So Shraddha comes from two different Sanskrit words put together. Shrat or Shrad, which means truth or faithfulness. And Da, which translates as to put in place or to direct one's mind towards something. And Shrat is also said to be a precursor of the English word heart. When we put these together, they tell you that faith blooms when the mind directs itself toward a deep-seated truth arising in your heart. So for each of us, faith arises from we deeply perceive to be true what we feel most assuredly in our hearts. Thus, faith lies at the foundation of our being as both the source and the consequence of our deepest intuitions about life. So what I love about yoga is that, these philosophies and these stories can be applied toward, any faith that we might participate in. So it's not denominational, right? So it's kind of this universal concepts that we can bring into our own faith. So let's take about 5 more breaths there. And as you take those 5 breaths, just bring that word back into mind, back into your heart. So for me, it's really integral to keep the flavor of spirituality in my yoga practice. So I can't separate the two. Some of us are more about the physical, some of us are more about the spiritual, but for me, I need the both of those to have a more meaningful practice. We're going to do a little bit of somatic work in a moment to work on the hip flexors. So in the classical Hanumanasana pose, one leg is forward, one leg is back, representing his giant leap across the ocean. So the front leg, we need a lot of hamstring opening. The back leg, we need a lot of hip flexor opening. So we're going to work on both of those and see where we get today. So when you're ready, go ahead and prop up, come off of those blocks, and we're going to come down onto our backs and take a full body stretch. And you can keep your 2 blocks at the top of your mat. We'll use them later when we come into some lunges. So take a moment, come down, take a full body stretch. And then we're going to bring the knees into the chest and rock a little bit side to side. Okay, set your feet down flat on the ground and take your arms out to a T. And we're gonna extend the left leg out long, keep the right foot flat. And then just separate your foot and leg so they're about max distance apart. We're gonna do the somatic movement that is called unwinding. It helps unwind tension in our core of our body, particularly the psoas, which is what we're targeting with this movement. So you're gonna take your right knee, drop it toward the left knee, push into your foot, and then arch your back. So your right hip is gonna lift off the ground and you're gonna let your head roll towards your right shoulder. Give a good squeeze to your glute muscle, the back of your hip to open the front of your hip. And then we're gonna let that hip come back down to the ground. And then let's go ahead and repeat that. Angle that knee over. Inhale as you come in. Arch your back, push into your foot. Let your head roll to the right. And now let's go ahead, just do a few more like that. You can always take a peek if you're not sure what we're doing. These somatic movements are a little different than some normal or regular yoga asana. So sometimes it's hard to get used to them, but they feel really nice. Okay, so one more like this, and we're gonna change it up a bit. Okay, come back to the start, pause there. We're gonna add a movement of the right arm next. So as you angle that right knee over to the left, take your right arm along the floor, don't lift it, circle it over your head. Now it's gonna lift a little bit. Your hand is gonna stay on the ground. Your arm is gonna just come over your ear and you're gonna roll towards your right side. So get a little bit deeper opening in the hip and the thigh and then come all the way back down. So let's try that a few more times. Push in your right foot, angle the knee over to the left, let your arm drape over your head and let your chest roll towards your left arm. And then release and do two more like that, moving on an inhalation. And one more time. And then release. And we're gonna stay in the same position, left leg straight, right leg bent, but bring the feet and legs about hips distance apart. We're gonna take the hands behind the back of the head. Now, same movement with that right knee, but this time our upper body is gonna side bend toward the right side. So let the right knee drop toward the left knee. Slide your upper body over towards your right, as if your right elbow is going to go to your right hip. And then maybe look at your left elbow. And then slide it back to the start. And let's do 3 more rounds. Inhale, push off your foot. Turn, look to your left elbow. Push into that foot, squeeze the back of the hip. And then release. 2 more rounds. And last time. And we're back to the start, and go ahead and release that leg, release your arms, and just take a pause. Notice your right leg and the difference between your right leg, your right hip, and your left side. So sometimes that right leg is going to feel a little more grounded now once we opened up that hip flexor. Let's try the other side. Bend the left knee, arms out to a T. Widen the feet and legs for this first round or two. And then drop that left knee over to the right knee, push in your foot, arch your back, look over your left shoulder. And we're gonna really squeeze the back of the hip, squeeze your glute, and then relax back down. And then continue, inhale as you move. You feel that stretch in the front of the hip. 2 more. And last one. Okay, now we're going to go for the arm swinging over the ear. So as that knee angles over, sweep your left arm around along the floor till it comes overhead and roll your chest towards your right. And then release and come back down. And then repeat that one a few more times. Inhale, reach. Rolling toward that right side and then coming back. 2 more like this. Moving on an inhalation. And last one. Okay, so now we're going to come back to center. Bring the feet and legs about hips distance apart, and we're going to add the side bend. So hands behind the back of the head, right leg is straight, left foot flat. Angle that left knee over to the right as you side bend towards your left and look at your right elbow. Really squeeze that hip and then release back to the start. Again, moving on an inhalation, push off your foot, inhale, slide, exhale, release. And 2 more like this. One more time. And back to the start. Go ahead and slide both legs out for a moment. That's it. Then we're going to bring right knee into the chest. One more exercise here on our back. Extend that right leg up and hold behind the back of your leg. Good. Now, reach up through your heel. You can keep the leg as bent as it needs to be, just to be comfortable here in your hamstring. We're going to push the thigh into the hands as you pull with your hands. So we call this active range of motion. We're both engaging and stretching the hamstring at the same time, which helps it get stronger and longer. And then we're going to bend the knee, bring it into your chest. And then inhale, extend it up and pull with your hands, push with your thigh. And then on your exhale, we're going to bring it into the chest one more time and extend. Reach it up there. Push thigh and hands into each other. And release, hug it back into the chest. And then full body stretch. Inhale, reach long. Exhale, left knee in, same thing. Extend that leg up, hold behind the back of your thigh. Reach through the heel and then push your thigh into your hands and your hands into your thigh so you feel that resistance and then pull it in toward your chest. And let's do that a couple more rounds. Inhale, extend, push and pull and then release and pull it into your chest. 2 more like this. And last round. After this one, full body stretch. And then both of the knees come into the chest. We're going to rock a little bit right to left. Okay, go ahead and roll to your side. We're going to come on up into a seated posture. You might want to sit up on your pillow if that's comfortable for you. All right, so take a moment, get comfortable, find the tops of your sit bones, lengthen up through your spine. And we're gonna bring one hand on top of the other, right on top of the heart. And as you take a couple moments here, remember your word. And just feel like you're inscribing that word on your heart. And then a little chest pull. Slide your hands to each side of your chest And this, if you're going to pull the flesh open, pull the tissue and open the heart space. Maybe just a little back bend as you lift your heart up toward the sky, and then release and try that a couple more times. Pull the flesh open the heart space. Sometimes you feel a little crack when you do this. Sometimes it's in your back body, actually. One more time, pull and open the heart space. Really good to open the area around the heart and release. We get really constricted around here when we're feeling stressed. So we're going to open that space up. Okay, take your legs apart wide. So we're in a straddle position. Actually, grab your strap. And we're going to take the strap around the feet. Now, some of us find it hard to sit like this. So you're going to bend your knees if that's the case. So you can bend your knees as much as you need to, but try to be on the tops of your sit bones, okay? If you can straighten your legs out. You might want to wrap your strap around your hands if you have an extra long strap and lift your chest up. Good. Okay, from here, press your feet into the strap. Have a little micro bend in your knees. And imagine you're going to try and pull that strap apart with your feet and push through your feet as if you're trying to lengthen your legs. Those legs should be working a little bit. Hold here, another breath, and root your thighs into the ground. Good, and then relax for a moment. Now everyone's going to bend the knees. So you might want to sit back so your blanket doesn't get kind of all bunched up under your heels. Bend your knees. You're still holding onto your strap. Keep your chest lifted. And now slowly re-extend those legs as far as you can. So you might still have a bend in your knee. And then bend, pull in, and then re-extend those legs. One more time. Bend, pull in, and re-extend the legs. Good. Okay, go ahead and release your strap. Set that off to the side. Bring your hands back behind you onto the ground. Knees can be bent if you need to. And we're going to come on the tips of our fingers. Lift and open that heart space. Lift it up toward the sky. Feel like you're going to pull your palms apart from each other, which you'll feel more opening in your chest. One more breath. And then we'll slowly release. Use your hands, bring your legs back in together, and then let's come into tabletop pose, all fours. And you might keep your blanket for now. If you want to take it out, you can. So we'll transition into our cat-cows. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Go ahead, take an inhale, and then as you exhale, round your spine, push into the ground. And let's go ahead and continue a few more cycles. Inhale, arch, exhale, round. 3 more cycles. And we've got one more here. Coming into your tabletop pose, and then we'll come back to our brief child's pose. Send your hips back, and you might put your hands under your forehead or walk them forward, your choice. Let's have another breath or two here. All right, and then from here, we're going to come up, and if you still have your blanket down, we're going to take that off. We'll do a little bit of standing work. Keep that blanket nearby in case you want it under your knees when we do our lunge practice. And then when you're ready, we're going to come up into downward facing dog. So just for a couple breaths, if down dog is too much, you can also just come into a standing forward fold. Once you're in your dog, you can bend one knee, then the other, and we wake up the backs of the legs a little bit more here. So I talked about it before that our hamstrings connect into the fascia of our feet. So when we kind of warm up the feet here, we'll stretch in the feet as we pedal out the feet, bend one knee, then the other. It starts to wake up that whole dorsal chain of fascia that goes up the back of our legs and even into our lower back and the back of our neck. Okay, take your feet apart a little wider, bend your knees a lot, and start to walk your hands back towards your feet. Keep those knees pretty bent as you come into a forward fold. And then we're going to inhale, root into the feet. We're going to come all the way up to stand, reach up through your arms, and then release. Let those arms come back down at your side. Very good. Okay, inhale. I feel like there's something caught here. My necklace is actually caught in my ponytail. Sorry, guys. I can't get it out. There it goes. Okay. Inhale, reach your arms up. And exhale, fold forward over your legs, couple half sun cells. Inhale, halfway lift, hands on your thighs. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. And exhale, hands to your heart. We're going to do 2 more cycles like that. Inhale, arms reach. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and fold. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, hands to your heart. One more time through. Inhale, reach. Exhale and fold. This time, inhale to your halfway lift. Stay there for a moment. Make sure your chin is tucked so the crown of your head is not tipping up. We want the forehead facing the ground. And reach your chest forward. Lift your shoulder heads. And then on your next exhale, slowly fold again. Now, as you fold, think about deepening your hip creases. Your sit bones are rising as the head goes down. You might let your arms come to the ground or hold opposite elbows. So we're getting a little deeper into those hamstrings. Press down through your feet, which will make it a more active range of motion. So we're strengthening and stretching at the same time. Switch your arm crossing if you're doing opposite arms. Let your chin tuck in, last breath. And then when you're ready, hands to hips, press down into your feet, bend the knees, and come all the way back up to stand. Very good. Okay, let's make sure those blocks are at the top of your mat. And we're gonna start a couple lunges. So standing in front of behind your blocks. Good, inhale, reach your arms up. And as you exhale, fold forward, hands to blocks. As you inhale, there's a lift in your chest, and then we're gonna step that right foot back, move your blocks back, and then drop down onto that back knee, and you might pad that back knee if you like. Toes can be flat or tucked, your choice, and then hands up on your thigh. Okay, so from here, really draw those outer hips in, lift the front of the belly, and hook your tailbone forward so we get that stretch in the back hip flexor. This pose is actually named for Hanuman's mother. Her name was Anjaneya. So this pose is called Anjaneyasana. So it's kind of like a split, but not quite. And then from here, we're gonna slide deeper into that front knee, but keep hooking the tailbone. We get that hip flexor stretch. If you feel pretty stable, go ahead and take your arms up here. That's it. We press down into the ground with our feet and then reach the arms up higher. Maybe we take a little back bend. Let's hold here another breath. And then release, hands down. Shift the back knee back a little bit, walk your blocks back a little bit, and then wiggle your front foot forward, come onto your heel, and spread out through your toes. So now we're in what's called Ardha Hanumanasana. Ardha means half in yoga, in Sanskrit. So it's a half split. We're not going too deep. So hold there, spread out through your toes, and we make sure we're not jamming that front knee. There's a slight bend in the front knee. Let's hold here another breath. Now stay here, and you're going to take your front foot and kind of drag it back, and your back thigh and drag it forward. And then we get that active range of motion in that front leg. You might feel that a little bit deeper. Okay, release that, bend that knee, walk your blocks forward, lift the back knee, and then step it forward and fold over your legs. Inhale, reach those arms up. And exhale, draw your hands to your heart. Good. Other side, inhale, reach. Exhale and fold. Hands to blocks. And then we're going to step the left foot back. Move your blocks back. And drop down onto the back knee, patting it if you need to. And then hands up on that front thigh. So we can be a little wobbly in this pose, so it's helpful to really root down into your feet and hug the hips in. Then we lift the belly and hook the tailbone forward to get that bigger stretch in the back thigh. Keep the belly lifting, because otherwise, when we deepen, so deepen into that front knee, if I let my belly go, I'm going to feel a lot more compression in my lower back. Keep rooting into your front foot, and then maybe the arms come up. Good. As you press the floor away with your feet, try to reach higher with your arms. Maybe go to the back bend a little bit. Hold it there, another breath. And then we're going to go ahead and release. And then start to wiggle that front foot forward. So we're going to try and straighten that leg. Maybe walk your blocks back so they're under your shoulders. Okay, just a couple breaths here, then we'll add that extra action on. So little bend in the knee, spread out through your toes, and we kind of press that heel into the ground. Even when I press the heel into the ground, I feel a little more firing in the hamstring. Hold it there, another breath. Okay, now we're going to do that dragging action. So feel like you're going to drag your right heel back and your left knee forward and feel that extra engagement of the leg. Let's hold that another breath. All right, and then we're going to re-bend into that front knee, walk your blocks forward, lift your back knee, and then step it forward, fold over your legs. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. And exhale, draw your hands to your heart. Good. Okay, blocks come off your mat at the top of your mat, and we're going to take a step toward the back of the mat. And take a big step forward with your right foot. Spin your back heel down. We're going to come into warrior one, bending deeper into that front knee. The back heel is going to stay grounded. We're going to hook our tailbone to get that extra stretch in the back hip flexor. Keep lifting the front of the belly, just like in our lunges. And then maybe the arms could come up. Good. Hold it here. Press the floor away. Reach the arms up. Hold another breath. And then from here, release the arms and place your hands right in front of your heart space. As you bend a little deeper into that front knee, keep your heart lifted and remember that word. One more breath. Good, and then from here, release your hands down, grab your blocks and put them underneath your hands. We're gonna spin onto the ball of the back foot. So we're in now a lunge with the back knee up. We're gonna inhale, reach your chest forward. And as you exhale, start to straighten your front leg any amount. That back heel can stay up. And then we're gonna alternate between these two. We're gonna bend the knee, keep the chest lifted as best you can, and then exhale, straighten that leg. Let's try that 2 more rounds. Bend the knee, inhale. And exhale, straighten. One more time, inhale. And exhale, straighten. Now stay here in the straighter leg for a couple breaths, just on the ball of the back foot. And we're gonna hug the inner thighs and the outer hips towards each other. Press down into that front foot. One more breath. And we're gonna bend into that front knee and try to take a little step forward until you can meet both feet top of the mat and fold over your legs. Inhale, reach those arms up. And exhale, hands to your heart. Good, let's try that on the other side. So we'll start from the back of the mat and step your left foot forward, back heel down. We're coming into our warrior one position, bending into the front knee. Good, keep that tailbone hooking, front of the belly lifting, and then maybe the arms could come up. So these warrior poses are really empowering, right? So we really feel our strength when in these poses. Like we feel like maybe we could accomplish some of the impossible, just like Hanuman. It can give us a little sense of hope when we feel more empowered. Bring those hands down in front of the heart and repeat your word in your mind. All right, and then release. Bring your hands down to your blocks. Bring them back under your shoulders. We're spinning onto the ball of the back foot. And then let's alternate. We bend into that front knee as we lift the chest and then slide the hips back. We're still kind of hugging into the midline. Straighten that leg without jamming your knee. And then bend the knee. Inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, move it back. All right, 2 more like that. One more round. Now we're gonna hold it in that straight leg position for a couple breaths. Outer hips hug in. Press down into your front foot. If you wanna go a little deeper, you can always lower your blocks, fold a little bit more over that leg. One more breath. All right, if you lowered your blocks, bring them back up, bend into your front knee, and then a couple steps to get that back foot all the way forward and fold over your legs. Inhale, reach those arms all the way up, and exhale, bring your hands to your heart. Inhale, reach the arms. Exhale, fold over your legs, set the blocks to the side. We're gonna inhale to a halfway lift, step back, plank pose, top of a push-up, drop your knees to the ground, and we lower all the way to the belly. Okay, come up into Sphinx posture. We're gonna press down into the arms, pull the arms towards your belly, pull your belly forward, lift your chest. Now you can stay here, or we're gonna lift the feet off the ground. So make it a little bit more into those hip flexors. And you might squeeze the feet in towards your glutes. Keep pulling with your hands, keep pulling your chest forward. Hold it there, one more breath, shoulders back. And then let the feet go. And we'll come all the way down, rest your head on your hands, and give your hips a little wiggle side to side. Go ahead and take one more breath where you are. And then we're going to slide our hands back and press back to a brief child's pose. Hips to your heels. And come all the way down. You can modify as you need to, maybe something under your head. And if your child's pose is not feeling good in your knees today, you can always stay on your belly. All right, one more breath. Okay, so let's go ahead and come back up, and we're gonna grab the blocks again. And if you are on like a floor surface, you might wanna have a blanket to place underneath. So let me show you guys. So if you're on a carpet, you don't need it. If you're not on a carpet, you could put a blanket down and then put your heel on the blanket. So what we're gonna do is try to slide that foot forward, okay? So if you're on a carpet, no worries, you probably have enough of a slide. Otherwise, you might wanna try the blanket, okay? So we're gonna have our blocks right in front of us, and we're gonna step that right foot forward again. And we'll work a little bit deeper toward our Hanumanasana. Okay, wiggle that front foot forward and lift and spread your toes. So we're in that half Hanumanasana again. And we might just stay right here. We want to go a little farther. We could start to lower your blocks, and we're going to come a little deeper into a forward fold. So we're going to think about your sit bones tipping back as your chest reaches towards your toes, and maybe fold. So that's a little deeper version of half Hanumanasana. Those of you who want to go even farther are going to keep the chest lifted for a moment and start to slide that front foot forward. Now, don't feel like it's a competition. You're not competing with anyone but yourself here. So we want to keep that ego out of it. Remember, our ego separates us from the divine. So we want to keep that ego in check. Only go as far as it feels right for you, and see what you can do for your split today. So you can either stay in the forward fold, stay upright in the half Hanuman, or go a little deeper. Hold it here, one more breath. Nice job, guys. And then we're gonna slowly slide that foot back in and step it back. If you want to take a quick child's pose, you could do so with your hands up on your blocks. Gives you a nice shoulder stretch. And then let's try our other side. So we'll come up, we'll start with those blocks up high. Step your left foot forward. All right, so this might be your pose today. If it feels right, stay here. If you want to go into the forward fold, you could lower your blocks. Again, think about sit bones tipping back, heart reaching forward, and then maybe a forward fold. You could stay with that, or come up with your chest and start to slide that front foot forward, even if it's just an inch or two, getting a little closer to Hanuman's famous leap from India to Sri Lanka. And you can even see on the maps, current modern day maps, there's little islands that dot the pathway from India to Sri Lanka. Hold it here, one more breath. And then release, slide that foot back. And once again, move back towards your child's pose with your palms up on your blocks if it feels good. Okay, all right, and then go ahead and release that. And we're gonna come onto our backs. So we did a lot of opening for our hip flexors. So we're gonna do some bridge poses, because the hip flexors are a big piece of our bridge pose. When we lift up, if these are tight, it's really hard for us to get our hips off the ground. So we're gonna do an active version, and then we'll do a passive version with a block. So keep a block within reach. Move this out of the way. So initially, let's come into robot arms. So palms face each other, feet are hips distance apart. And before we try to lift the hips, let's get a little lift in the heart. So we're gonna wiggle our shoulder blades a little closer till we feel that natural lift in the heart. And if we press into the arm bones, we can get that heart to lift a little higher. Remember your word here. Now lift those hips up just stay low to the ground, maybe an inch or two. And that way we can wiggle the shoulder blades in a little more. And now, before you lift your hips all the way, reach your tailbone forward toward the backs of your knees and then lift up. So we're lengthening the lower back, pushing your arm bones, lift those hips and your heart as high as they'll go. We're going to take one more breath. Use your legs. So you're pressing in your feet, engaging those legs. And then we're going to slowly release. Very slowly start to come down. Once you're down there, let's take a breath. We're going to do one more active and then we'll grab our block. And if you want to go right to the block, that's of course your choice as well. So this time we're going to start with the robot arm same way. Some of you might want to clasp your hands underneath you, which will give you a bigger heart opening. But if that's too much on your elbows or your shoulders, skip that part. So start with robot arms. Wiggle your shoulder blades in to open your chest. And make sure your knees aren't knocking together. I see somebody's knees are kind of close together. You want to keep those knees hips distance apart. Okay, lift your hips up an inch. Wiggle the shoulder blades in. Reach your tailbone long and then come up. Push your arm bones into the ground. And then you might go underneath you and clasp your hands, and then you can really wiggle those shoulders under. Get the heart as high as it'll be. Press into the feet, get the hips as high as they'll be. You really feel a nice opening in the front of the body. Squeeze your legs, back of the glutes are working. And then release the arms, undo the shoulder blades first. And then we're going to slowly, slowly come down. Take a pause. You might even drop your knees apart for a bound angle or a windshield wiper your legs side to side. See what feels good to help release your back after the active version. All right. If your knees are apart, bring them back together and then grab your one block. We're going to lift those hips and slide the block underneath the back of the pelvis. You can go on the first setting, or if you want to go a little deeper, you can flip it up to the second setting so your hips are higher. And we're going to come into those robot arms again. We're going to tuck the shoulder blades in and lift your heart space up toward the sky. And then you can relax your arms down as you keep your chest lifted. You can stay here, or we can come into an inversion by bringing the knees up and extend the legs up toward the ceiling. But do keep that heart area nice and lifted. We'll take a couple of breaths here. Now, those of you who have the legs overhead, we're going to try the Hanuman's leap here. So let's take the left leg down, keep the right leg up. Get those legs to reach away from each other. If that's too much, then don't go so far or keep the legs up. And then switch. Bring the left leg up, right leg down, and feel like you're reaching those legs away from each other. Good, one more time on each side. And switch last time. Good, and then both legs up, both knees down, and both feet down. If your block is on a higher setting, lower it to the lowest setting. And let your back settle for a moment. Nice full breath. Okay, and then let's go ahead and lift that block, and we're going to come all the way down. Take your feet as wide as your mat, arms out to a T, and just windshield wiper your legs side to side. Next time your knees drop to the right, pause, let them drop, and turn your head the opposite way. And then knees up, then over to the other side, head goes to the opposite shoulder. Take a breath. And back to the center, hug the knees into the chest. Let's rock a little bit side to side and soothe that lower back. Anytime we're working with hips and hamstrings, it can affect our lower back. So the hip flexor and the hamstrings affect our pelvic tilt, and that can affect the what we feel in our lower back if we get compression, if we get tightness. All right, go ahead and stay there, and you can either stay with a knee hug or take a happy baby, holding the feet if you like, or ankles or behind your knees. The important thing is to feel like you're not like rounding your back excessively here. If you feel like you're really poking those vertebrae into the ground, then hold behind the knees. If you can keep a little bit more of a neutral spine, then you can hold feet. And again, maybe you want to rock. Again, we'll soothing for that lower back. All right, and then it's time for Shavasana. So you can take one more knee hug if you like, or any other last minute thing you need to do, and then find your way to your Shavasana. So grab any props that you might want to be comfortable. Cover up if you've gotten cold. And then once you're there, let's go ahead, take your hands over your heart one more time. And just repeat that word 3 more times before you come into your Shavasana. And after your third time, go ahead and release your arms and completely relax. So here's the time where we let go of all the hard work, let your body and your mind become effortless, and allow yourself to drop into the ground. So I'll read a little bit more. This is from a book called The Myths of the Asanas. So it's all the stories of some of the yoga postures. Hanuman's journey is recounted in the Ramayana. So this is an epic tale written thousands of years ago. And it is one of faith, fearlessness, and complete devotion. Hanuman is said to embody all the qualities of a yogi, and his story reflects our own in many ways. How many times have we forgotten our own divinity only to fall back into the same self-defeating way of thinking over and over? Who hasn't had a crisis of faith and wondered if some burden wasn't too great to bear, or whether some task wasn't impossible to complete? Hanuman teaches us that there's one thing that allows us to override all of our doubts and fears, and that one thing is love. So these stories help us to overcome our fear, gives us an opportunity to create space for the impossibilities in our lives. And take a couple more moments here to rest. All right, so take your time. I'm going to come back to awareness and let your breath deepen a bit. Maybe wiggle fingers and toes out when you're ready. And then just a slower transition into some bigger movements before coming over onto your side. And we'll pause there on your side for a few breaths. After you've had a couple moments to transition onto your side, then we'll go ahead and come on up, finishing in a seated posture of your choosing. Maybe sitting up on a prop. Find the tops of the sit bones. And then we'll take one more opportunity to bring our hands on our heart. And you can either close the eyes or have a soft gaze, feeling that resonance of the words inscribed in your heart. And I'll finish with one more little reading from the yoga philosophies. And this is from Upanishads, which is another one of the classical yogic texts. When our mind is pure, we find faith in benevolence, having little attachment to what we ourselves can gain. At such times, faith leads us to value yoga as a means of curtailing sorrow and suffering, and for directing our mind toward transcendental truths. At other times, faith revolves around lesser truths and leads us to behaviors that are not so lofty, having faith that we'll win the lottery, for example. So that's not what this is all about. In other words, the way in which each of us lives out our lives reflects the nature of our faith. Yoga itself is an act of faith arising from the heart, and by having faith in the fundamental aims of yoga, a faithful person obtains knowledge. But a person whose faith is based on only mundane truths, or who is without faith and overwhelmed by doubt, comes to nothing. So we need to have hope, we need to have faith, and therein comes truth and knowledge. So we'll bring our hands together in front of the heart space. Have a nice inhalation, and as you exhale, bow your head down to your heart. And thank you so much, everyone. Namaste.